was in Vietnam in 1965, the 14th of November, and I was commanding an assault helicopter company in the Central Highlands along the border of Cambodia. And we were going in along the border so we could stop the enemy that had been attacking Special Forces camps from getting out of the country. So we thought we'd be fighting to the east. And we got in there, and we ended up fighting to the west. There were 2 regiments sitting on the hill, and the unit on the ground was a Cav unit, and they survived. And the helicopters was the first time the helicopters really been used in a combat role, and we didn't know how they would survive. They did a wonderful job. No, I was when the fighting started, when the enemy wasn't in the battlefield initially. It was on the 5th lift in is when the heavy fighting really started, and there were enemy in the landing zone right close to where I had to land. And I knew the infantry needed ammo because I knew how much they carried in. And so I saw what was going on, and my immediate response was, I'm not going to be able to keep lifting troops in there. I had 8 aircraft were in that lift, and 4 of them had to be grounded, and I had 6 people shot off my aircraft when I came out. I had 3 dead and 3 wounded, and I knew they would need ammo, but I also knew I had to find out what was going on in there. We closed the landing zone. The infantry commander says he closed it, but I got news for him still. I keep telling him I'm the commander of the helicopters. I don't go. They're my resources. If I have to stop supporting them because I'm going to lose more than I can afford in resources, it's my decision to make. You can't tell me to go. You can't tell me not to go. But I can tell me not to lift his troops. And so we have agreed to disagree. And when I got back to the base camp, I had to change aircraft. My crew chief was shot through the throat. And so when I got to the ground, or before I got to the ground, I sent 2 helicopters back to Pleiku to get ammo, because I knew that the Special Forces camp wouldn't give me theirs. I wouldn't give them mine if I had it either. And I sent the 2 aircraft back to get it, and then I got on the ground. I changed aircraft. My crew chief had to be medevaced, and so I took care of that. And my co-pilot went and got another aircraft cranked up, and I asked for a volunteer aircraft to go with me. You always want 2 aircraft going on any mission if possible, because if something happens, you want a second aircraft to be able to help you. You know, the only time I didn't let 2 go, I lost a helicopter and never found it. It was found 2 years ago, and we buried them in Arlington after all those years. So I went in with 2 aircraft. My wingman that volunteered was Ed Freeman, and he received the Medal of Honor also. And he was the only one that deserved it. I'm the commander, I had to go. He was the volunteer. And we made sure that he got the award before, he got it in 2001, you know, and I was picked up in 2007.
Experiences.
2 things. I wanted to experience what the basic training is now, because it's been 60 years since I went through it. And one of the problems in our day, it wasn't timely. A lot of the training was Second World War training, and Korea wasn't really in the mix that well when I went through. And Korea was what we were fighting, so we needed to. I wanted to see how up to date it was and how effective it was. Very impressed. I think we're doing the right thing. I think if I had to go through that training today, I think it would be outstanding and prepare me very well to be a soldier on today's battlefield. Out of our visit,
Yes,
to realize that we're just the average guys and we're just victims of circumstance. We, all of us were one-day activities, and it just happened. And every one of them will do exactly what we did. There isn't any question in my mind that when you're faced with the situations that we got into, that you'll react the way we did. You can't do anything else. I couldn't leave those people on the ground. there wasn't any way that I could do that. So I treated them like they owed me money, and I tried to rescue them.
Right. In your own words, what do you think is a hero? What would you describe as being a hero?
What would I describe as being?
A hero.
Well, we don't use that word.
Okay.
That's a four-letter word. It's the same as winner. We don't use that word. We're recipients, and we're regular people. The hero, maybe a fireman that dives into a burning building, I wouldn't do it because I'm not a fireman, of course. But a hero, I just don't like the word. And when people introduce me as a hero, I resent it. Not really, because they don't know how I feel. But I think I'm like most of the guys. That's not a word. It's a four-letter word.
So besides recipient, is there any other word that you would use?
Oh, just recipient, and realize that we're victims of that time and that in space, and we did what our job was. We were trained to do what we couldn't. I can't imagine doing anything different. Could I send my co-pilot and me get out of the aircraft? And I flew the lead aircraft most of the time. I think I was on 2 missions that I didn't lead all the time I was there. And we had other commanders that flew up above and told people where to go. Well, that's not the way I was trained. And so you have a difference in the training, but everybody responds the same way. If any of our commanders that had been in that aircraft would have done exactly what I did. It's just a timing thing. One problem everybody should pay close attention to is never go into combat with a guy that's braver than you are. He can lead you into trouble. He has to care about others. He has to have a willingness to lead without fear. Now, you should have fear, but you should fear screwing up a lot more than you fear dying, because you're going to die anyhow someday. And if it's tomorrow, why? That's something you can't change. But you can change the way you address combat. And I think that a leader has to train his men and be passionate about it, to be ready to go when it's time to go and to fight when it's time to fight. But I also think a leader has to understand the family situation and the life that each one of our soldiers has to live, because they're going to have more than one career. Every one of us has had at least 2 that wear the medal. And these people are going to have more than 2 that are in there now. And they'll have to, because we're going to leave them so damn much in debt that they'll have to have not just 2 careers, 3 or 4 all at one time. I hope that that's not true, but I'm concerned about my grandchildren, and I think that any leader who will not do the job himself, in other words, won't walk into that battlefield first, shouldn't have the job. And if he's a reluctant warrior, I don't want him. If he wants to kill and likes combat, I don't want him. If he's compassionate and cares about his own people and cares about his fellow soldiers, I want him.